move forward with developing a timelier and more efficient appeals process that better serves our veterans. It's also important to take a look at our educational programs, including the post-9/11 GI Bill, to ensure that our returning veteran members have access to the best training and educational programs. In order for meaningful reform to take place for these and other programs, we need your help. We need to find the right solutions and to best serve our veterans. I look forward to hearing your views and advice on how we can best do this. I will now read a statement from my good friend, Chairman Isakson. Welcome to the 9 military and veteran service organizations and their members who are in attendance. I regret that I am unable to attend the hearing today per my doctor's orders. I am home recovering from a February 20th back surgery. I look forward to returning to Washington, D.C. next week with a new and improved back to continue working harder than ever before on behalf of veterans. And by the way, his doctor friend here advised him to stay away, something I didn't do when I had my surgery. As I've said at Secretary Shulkin's confirmation hearing, we're about to make health care more available to veterans through care in both the private sector and VA. We don't want to privatize VA. We want to empower it. I look forward to working collaboratively with you and other stakeholders to improve the care and services for our veterans. I now yield to House Veterans Affairs Committee Ranking Member Waltz for his opening statement.
Well, thank you, Chairman Rowe, and good morning to every one of you. I would like to thank the Chairman. He is a humble Tennessean. He's a Vietnam veteran, a doctor, one of this nation's leading advocates for veterans, and I can tell you a man of great integrity and decency, and it's always a pleasure to be up here with him. To each of you, thank you. To many of you, I myself and Chairman Rowe belong to your organizations. To all of you who came here today, if you wonder what it matters, I used to always wonder where my dues went. I'm really glad they went to putting people like Gus Hargett sitting there to advocate for those things when I was a guardsman out in Minnesota. It does make a difference, and if we have any Minnesotans who traveled here, this is not summer outside yet, you may think. It's just nice. But we welcome you and welcome the testimony that we're going to hear. As the Chairman said, there's a commitment, and it's not the hyperbole that you hear in the press or those that want to find ways to divide us. Nothing unites this country more than care for their veterans. It doesn't matter what yard sign they have in their yard. We would all have the same one. Every single constituent I see in southern Minnesota, I'm sure it's in Tennessee, I'm sure it's in California and Maine, they tell us do the right thing for veterans. And it's our job to help figure out what that is. It's pretty simple. If it's right for veterans, it's the right thing to do. If it delivers care in a timely manner, it's the right thing to do. If it reduces wait times, it's the right thing to do. If the benefit of the doubt goes to the veteran, it's the right thing to do. And we believe on this committee that we can do that in a manner that's also responsible to the taxpayers and make it use existing resources that are out there, strengthen that core mission of the VA, and as Dr. Rowe said, make sure that the VA is a place, an employer of choice where people want to go. We want our best and brightest working in the VA. And I can tell you this, there's no one who dislikes a bad employee more than a good employee working next to them. We need to get that right. We need to make sure we're retaining the good employees, we're incentivizing them to be there, and we are doing what Dr. Rowe said, removing as quickly as we can those bad actors. So I look forward to your testimony, but I do want to make mention, I thought it was an extraordinary testimony the other night by Secretary Shulkin, who has the support of everyone. Imagine this. And they'll be joining us shortly from the United States Senate and in the House, where the Senate voted. I would have never believed they would vote 100-0. It was Thursday, but they voted 100-0 for Dr. Shulkin. They agreed. They agreed that he was there, for veterans. And the other night, he said some amazing things. He made a comment that we have a 3-year study to see if service dogs help people in recovery. And people are saying, that's too long, we need to move this or whatever. And he said, you know what, it is too long. We'll do our study, but you know what, he said, we're trying to do the study, which means we need a control group. One group of veterans that have service dogs and one that doesn't. I can't find anybody who doesn't, so that tells me we probably should just do it, and we're going to. And that was just great. It was fabulous. When's the last time you heard that? And that is what inspires faith in people, because he's cutting through that. And then I want to thank John and the Vietnam veterans and others led, but you guys were out front on this issue of the other than honorable discharges, the bad paper discharges. Our brothers and sisters in arms who, for whatever reason, whether it was PTSD, military sexual trauma, for some reason, were dismissed, basically kicked outside, which meant they couldn't get the care they needed. In many cases, they had served honorably in combat, came back, and were experiencing those wounds of war, and instead of dealing with it and getting them to the VA, we kicked them out. Well, the other night, the Secretary did something that many have been asking for forever. He waved that magic wand, and I would argue the conscience of America spoke. He said, you know what we're going to do? Every one of those people can come back in and get the mental health care they need, because it's the least we owe them. So, all of you here in a time of great angst and uncertainty, and every poll shows that it's 50-50 no matter what you poll. There is one poll, like with Dr. Shulkin, that's 100-0. Care for our veterans comes first. We need to join together to get it done, and I am just proud you're here to give that voice. I yield back, Chairman.
I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I think you can see why I enjoy serving with Mr. Waltz. Senator Tester isn't here just yet, so we'll start. Welcome again. Mr. Kovac, you may begin your testimony on behalf of the Paralyzed Veterans of America. You're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you. Chairman Isaacson, Chairman Rowe, and the members of the committee, thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak on behalf of the members of Paralyzed Veterans of America. We are among the most profoundly disabled, yet resilient contingent of veteran population. And with all the legislative priorities we entered into the written record, none is more important to us than protecting the specialized system of care at the VA. On behalf of all paralyzed veterans, I ask you this. Are you willing to guarantee me that as a paralyzed veteran who was encouraged by you to access care in the private sector is going to receive care that is comparable to the VA? I've been relying on the VA for 26 years. Which is longer than any of you have served on this committee, I'm assuming. My survival was assured by the quality care that I received at the VA from the time I suffered my spinal cord injury in 1991. And much of that is the result of the collaboration between this committee and Paralyzed Veterans of America. For this reason, it concerns us that too often our elected leaders have hastily generalized that private health care is superior to the VA. But consider this. In the 1940s, a veteran with a spinal cord injury could only hope to live 18 months. But in the 1990s, when I was injured, paralyzed veterans were told that statistically, we might live to the age of 62. And now, in 2017, it's not unusual to see paralyzed veterans reaching their 70s, which is almost consistent with the general population. In fact, some of those World War II veterans who founded PVA in 1946 are still living. One such survivor, Captain James Bromwell, who I actually got to meet, is currently enjoying the recently opened long-term care facility at the Long Beach VA Spinal Cord Injury Center at the age of 98. I would challenge any of you to find a nationwide system of care in the private sector that can produce lifelong results such as these. It's unsettling that those of you who have the authority to determine, or at least largely influence, where I get my care have yet to fully appreciate the reality that the VA provides more comprehensive, coordinated, and outcome-driven quality care than the private sector in many specialties such as spinal cord injury, post-traumatic stress, traumatic brain injury, polytrauma, and prosthetics. This is not an abstract for us. This is our reality. VA is differentiated by the nationwide hub and spokes framework and high standards defined by the Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities, also known as CARF. CARF places emphasis on the needs of special populations by ensuring programs meet patient-centered and state-of-the-art national standards for rehabilitation. However, PVA has found evidence that not all rehabilitation centers in the private sector that claim to provide the gold standard of care are actually CARF certified. These findings suggest inconsistency in determining the standard of care in the private sector. For this reason, I propose that those of you who consider the uncertain private sector a better option than the VA, please explain how you arrived at such a decision without full inquiry to validate your assumptions. So I also ask you, who wants hurried access to questionable care in the private sector when we need timely access to quality care at the VA? Finally, crucial to the quality of veterans' health care is its staff and its clinical services. Every time I have the opportunity to testify to this committee, I have alerted you to the fact that the VA has not maintained its capacity to provide for the specialized health care needs of America's most severely disabled veterans. If you could simply enforce Public Law 114-223 that you passed last year that requires the VA to report its capacity, you would see that the VA is woefully understaffed and beds remain empty despite the long line of veterans that are trying to get admitted to the hospitals. To make matters worse, the VA must think you're asleep at the wheel because over the past 7 years, the VA has fallen short of its mandated staffing of bedside clinicians by operating at only 60% capacity. Furthermore, the VA continues to reduce the number of beds and they continue to reduce the clinical staff. This behavior is reckless and unacceptable, and Congress is not holding them accountable. Now is the right time to make a difference. Let's not squander this opportunity with so much control over the destiny of our veterans' health care. There is absolutely no excuse for failure. If the VA does not improve now, it will be impossible for you to escape blame. With approximately 100 veterans currently serving in Congress, I would hope more would want to serve on this committee, and I would hope that they would use the VA for their own care. After all, if you want to provide oversight for veteran health care, you might need a little skin in the game. But until then, I think I can speak for veterans when I say we are here, reporting for duty, to serve our country as we continue to assist you in providing the quality care for all veterans. Veterans don't want any more excuses. We just want appropriate care. This concludes my testimony. I'll take questions that you may have at the appropriate time.
Thank you, Mr. Kovac. Admiral Hall, you now recognize